this awkward moment at the embassy. So when they kind of give you this paper and they go, well, you're no longer with us.
Meet Yana, a Singaporean who's lived in Europe and US and has spent the last 15 years in Singapore. Yana's job is to coach highly successful and wealthy individuals. We talked about struggles regarding Singaporean identity, the awkward experience of renouncing a citizenship, and how kind a typical Singaporean is. I'm Max, you know me, right? Let's do it! This video is sponsored by Zoho Sign, a complete digital signature app for business signatories. More about it later. What is Singaporean identity for you?
I just recently made a picture with friends of mine, and it was three of us, three women, right? So, and like the picture was me in the center. On one side, I had a Singaporean who is Chinese, and on the other side, I had Singaporean who is Malay and Muslim, so fully covered. And I'm blonde, Caucasian looking, right? So, and we took this picture with three of us, and I was the joke, well, three Singaporean women, go figure that. So, right, but then how do you define that? And so to me, it's, I mean, definitely that you spend here a lot of time. Yeah. I think that's probably one of the, whether you were born here, grew up here, or just lived here for a long time, so you know the place really well. And then I do feel that there is some, you know, like with any maybe nationality or any other culture, like when you meet people, there is a certain level of familiarity. Like I don't know how to explain it. Like if you talk, I don't know, to any other nationalities, then you know their jokes, you know their way of living, you know the food they like, right? You know what maybe movies they watched when they were growing up. So I find that there's a lot of
like a similar context.
Yeah, it's sort of like a similar content. It's a similar way, maybe a little bit looking maybe at life or perceiving things. But also, Singapore is very diverse culturally, right? I mean, it already has Chinese, Indian, Malay, at least, right? So with all kind of other nationalities which are present here. And so then everyone would have their own food, everyone would have their own culture. Very often each group would have their own religion or non-believers. And so it's like so incredibly diverse. So it's a very good question. What makes people Singaporean and how do you define that?
What part of you became Singaporean?
To me, it's something to do with kindness. There is just something about people here that there is this very deep inner kindness that shows in every small little thing, like throughout the day. And that's just not something I would see so much outside of Singapore, especially if you look at the masses, right? So many people. And here, it's just Singaporeans, those who are Singaporeans, I think fundamentally people genuinely want to do the right things, right? I mean, they genuinely want to help. They have values that they want to uphold. They're trying to teach their children values. Those like human values about, you know, inclusion and love and support and kind of, I don't know, helping your community. That's the other thing which I also noticed, that just Singaporeans are very, like really deep in their communities and they like their communities. They want to help their communities. There's a lot of community service that is being done. And even like after our previous interview, I did receive a few messages from Singaporeans who were asking me like, are you a member of any local clubs? If not, come to our club. You know, we have this community gathering, come and join us. So there's a lot of this inclusion. So to me, it's about maybe kindness, inclusion, curiosity about others, so that it doesn't matter, again, what culture you're from and what is your background. You're here, so I'm curious about you. So to me, maybe this. Like everywhere I go, I just find that, yeah, there's just Singaporean, I don't know, they, like just good people. Maybe that's what it is. You know, at least trying their best in a natural way to be good people. So that's to me what's Singaporean.
Okay, let's put it this way, like typical American. Sometimes they don't really care what happens outside of America. Do you think that Singaporeans, like let's say there are like several issues now in the world, like the war between Russia and Ukraine, like tension of like China, Taiwan. Do you think like Singaporeans care particularly about like some of these issues, or they're more focused on their own country?
If it is Singaporeans like me who became Singaporeans, but maybe they had other like nationalities before, then I think that they would probably care more in a sense because they are closer with their original culture and if they're like Europeans or Americans, and I know Australians or something else, I mean, and then they became Singaporeans, then I think they would definitely care and talk about it during their dinners and everything. Now, those Singaporeans who are Singaporeans, I think it would also probably depend on the generation, at least in my experience. So all the generation would probably definitely care about, let's say if we talk about Chinese, they would definitely care what China is doing, again, because culturally it's closer to them. So, but maybe what Russia is doing less, even though these days everyone cares about Russia, so what they are doing, right? So, but maybe less about like any other country. I feel people care about things which are culturally close to them. So, but then what I wanted to say still, with especially younger generation of Singaporeans, who just now living through this like an international booming, with so many people coming here and they travel and they do other things, I just find them to be incredibly curious about other cultures, because they realize that they grew up in a very small country, and maybe when they were growing up, they were learning about very specific things, and maybe not that much about everything else what is happening in the world. And now they are meeting people from the world, and they realize, wow, there is so much more I still don't know, and they really want to know that. So I just recently had a conversation with a 26-year-old Singaporean girl who was telling me like how she was traveling to America, just talking to local people there, and how curious she was just to understand how other people are living. And so I find them just to be very curious.
Is there any like, I don't know, like downsides or obligations that you started feeling when you transferred from being foreigner, like PR, and then Singaporean?
Well, I think the main one, not even the obligations, but what actually makes many people to really think about it, is the fact that Singapore wants exclusivity. It's an exclusive marriage. You are either Singaporean or you are not. So you can't, have any other passports. And I know that for many people, it's an emotional thing. Then it means that if you want to have Singaporean passport, then you have to give up whatever other passports you have been having before, and it's emotional for people. And I know quite a few who have been thinking about it, contemplating, and even me myself, it took me a few years to actually make this decision, knowing that I would have to give up my previous passport so that I will apply and get it. So I think that's probably the biggest one for people at the moment. I understand Singapore is a young country, it's a new country, so they want to make sure if you commit, you commit. And so that was one thing that was just on my mind a lot. Otherwise, to be honestly, it's what you said, it's great when you go outside with traveling and everything. It's probably one of the best passports if you want to just move around the world. You hardly need visa anywhere. So ironically, except for the country where I come originally, that's the biggest joke. So now I need to get visa to go see my brother there, for example. So, but then again, it's an emotional aspect of that I just had to learn to deal with.
Did you remember the day when you gave up, officially you gave up your previous citizenship?
Yes, well, it's a process, right? I mean, it takes usually about a year for all the, depending on the country. Yeah. Like some countries up to 5 years to actually process the renunciation of your citizenship. And some countries, like, I don't know, if you happen to have an American passport, you have to do an exit interview and you have to get all kinds of papers. So different countries have different rules of exit, and some are harder than others. And so in my case, I think it took about a year just for all papers to come through. And I just remember receiving this final document that came here to the embassy in Singapore. And I would have to go and pick up this document, and at this awkward moment at the embassy. So when they kind of give you this paper and they go, well, you're no longer with us, right? And then I had to go and submit this paper to ICA in Singapore, and that's how they close the case of you officially becoming a citizen. Yeah, it was emotional. It's a choice you make, and then you have to be fully aware of the consequences in a way, right? So and then that's it.
Guys, and by the way, I have exciting news for you. So Yana is launching her own channel. So basically, she just uploaded a video interview with me on her channel.
Yes.
So normally I'm asking people questions, and this time it's vice versa. I'm answering questions and some challenging ones as well. I share my honest opinion about Singapore. So guys, watch this video on Yana TV channel and don't forget to subscribe if you want more stories from impactful people living in Singapore.
Yes, impactful and conscious people of Singapore. See you there.
So do it now, do it now. Let's talk about your work, like as a coach. What are the easiest nations to work with for you?
Well, you would laugh, but actually I do like to work with Singaporeans because I find them, especially in my field, to be very easy to work with. And it's sort of in a sense, like if you think that I work with people, right? So it's human advancement, human development. So to me, when a person comes to me, it means that they come with this realization that there is something I would like to improve or change or master. So their mind is already ready. I don't have to convince them about anything. They're like, I want to work with you. This is what I want to work on. How can you help? A part of human development work, it's not just talking. I mean, talking is just therapy, right? I don't do therapy. So it's not like a talking therapy. It's a lot about you clarify where you are, and then you get clear on where you want to be, and then you find what is the easiest and the fastest way to get there, right? It's kind of the simple way to explain it. And to get there, you have to take actions. And so I just find with Singaporeans and then generally Asians, so not only Singaporeans, but generally Asians, if they come and I tell them, well, if you're here and maybe you want to get there in life, here's your plan. And this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I don't know, 10 things you have to do in this order to get there, they would be very happy. They would be like, I got it. I have a plan, I have actions, and I'm just going to go do that. So I find with many other nationalities, which let's say maybe Europeans or Americans, they don't do it. So they come and there's a lot of talking, and then people go, well, this is what I have, but I actually want to have this. And I'm like, well, let's work on it. You know, you need to have conversation with yourself, with other people. Maybe you need to sign up for this particular workshop or this class. And very often they just don't do that because their mind gets kind of hijacked by this like a wishful thinking, but not early action taking. So I find not just Singaporeans, but in generally Asians to be very action taking. And when we talk about that, then you make things happen in life, rather than Westerners who usually considered to be maybe more creative by nature. Like I know many Singaporeans are wondering, am I creative enough? You know, can I create an original thought or can I create something original? So they have different struggles for themselves. Kind of constantly checking is there something new I can create? That's a big thing here about creativity. And there are many trainings about creativity and sort of helping people to get in touch with their creativity and kind of this thinking beyond the rules, right? So, but then other Western nationalities which are thinking beyond the rules, they can't get to the simple thing. So it's sort of either one or the other usually for human being. I think everyone has something that they need to work on.
It's a little bit of generalization probably. Maybe Asians are more realistic.
That's a good way of putting it, and more practical also.
More practical, yeah.
More practical,
more down
exactly,
to earth.
More down to earth, and I think it comes from a family and culture again because, and I just the same recently had conversation with an Asian friend and we were laughing about a different style of parenting. So if you have, for example, an Asian mom or Singaporean mom, particularly maybe Chinese Singaporean mom, then it's a lot, well, you make mommy proud, you know, where's your A grades, right? So there's like a lot of expectation for children to have high grades and to do really good academically. And if they don't, it's a disgrace to the family. So for a child who is growing up with a lot of pressure, which makes them very grounded and realistic, because that's what their parents demand, right? So, but then, for example, like if you talk to European or American or other Western parents, it's a lot, what would you like to do? What ignites your heart? What are you passionate about? Are we okay with anything? Just be happy, right? So it's like an entirely different way. But then it often produces, you know, children who become these adults who are just very spacey. And they have no idea what they want to do because they tried hundreds of things. And it's very hard to choose from this. So often it actually leads to this like existential crisis later where they think, wow, mommy and daddy invested so much in me and I went to all those programs and courses and now I'm, I don't know, 18 or 19 years old and I have to know what I want to do and I don't. And this is really painful for younger people versus here, maybe there are less options because parents tell you you're going to be a doctor, a lawyer, or a banker. That's it. Right? Those are your three options. And then the child goes and studies. So they're not questioning the direction. But then later in life, usually they start wondering, is it what I want to do? Am I happy in this profession? So then they have to go through this like unlearning where, and we call it literally unlearning or deconditioning, where each person needs to ask themselves this question, am I doing it because I want to do this? Because my parents told me to do that? Because society wants me to do that, right? So and it's also a painful process. So I guess, sorry to say that, but whether you're having this crisis when you're 18 or 40, you're still going to have a crisis one way or another. So it doesn't matter which culture you're coming from.
By the way, Yana, do you have a company in Singapore?
I do,
right?
yes.
Is it like
yes.
PT Ltd?
It's yes, PT Private Limited. It's just so easy to start the company in Singapore. I mean, first of all, it's just time-wise, it's really easy. We were just talking yesterday with a friend of mine. She's from China actually, and she told in Singapore, and she told me that even 10 years ago, it took her only half an hour to open a company. At the same time, a friend of her was opening a company in China, and it took her 3 months.
Do you have any constraints like doing paperwork for your business in Singapore?
I think in general it's really easy to do that, but also sometimes like different options, different spots, and it would be nice actually to have like, I don't know, one platform that does everything at once, which is really easy.
In Singapore, you do not need to store tons of paperwork and constantly go to government authorities, especially if you know about the sponsor of today's video. Meet Zoho Sign, a simple and secure digital signature app for fast-growing businesses. I mean, you can say goodbye to paperwork, seriously, right now. With Zoho Sign, you can digitally sign, send and manage documents and close deals faster than ever before. Wait, but what about security? An image of a handwritten signature can be easily forged. This is true, but if you are using Zoho Sign, the digital signature uses cryptographic techniques backed by a digital certificate to provide proof of identity. This gives you a high level of security. In addition, if you are a resident of Singapore, then you have a digital identity sync pass. Zoho Sign readily integrates with Sign with Sync Pass. Singapore businesses can digitally sign documents with Sign with Sync Pass via Zoho Sign. This method is legally valid, secure and trusted. If you need technical support or consultation, then come to the Singapore office of Zoho Sign. Local staff is here to help you. And as a special bonus for my viewers, use my discount code MAXZohoSign to get free Zoho Sign credits worth $50. Or you can begin with a 14-day enterprise free trial. Follow the link in the description and simplify your work with documents. Are you leaving? Wait, enjoy this video first. But it's gone in 3, 2, 1.